Hello all, Jamie Rodgers here from Jamie Rodgers Crafts, and today I thought we'd have a little look at this really simple, elegant, easy to do card that we'll be playing around with a couple of the dies from my Essentials Christmas collection of dies and stencils. So we're going to be using the Frosty Snowflake Corners. This one is JRCD 0009, and this set comprises itself of 6 different dies. We have 4 filigree panels, our X die, as I refer to, and then our postage stamp outer edge. Now I'll show you these when we get to play with them in a bit more detail, but that's one of the sets we're going to be using. The other set for this project we're going to be playing with is the Christmas scene set. This one is JRCD 0017, and we have 3 different dies in this one. You have got your forest set, your skyline set, and then our lovely sleigh and reindeers. And we're going to be playing with a lot of these actually to build up our card today. So let's have a little look at the card itself, shall we? So the card, to give you a size idea, because it's always nice to know what we're sort of aiming for, isn't it? It is approximately 6.5 inches, and that's a square. So flipping over to centimetres, if that helps, it's about 16.5 centimetres. Card-wise, I'm working with the Polar White Elite cardstock and the Seashell Blue. Absolutely love the Seashell Blue. It's one of my favourites to craft with. It's just that soft, lovely blue shade. But of course we do, I believe it's 17 shades of Elite cardstock. And the Night Sky Navy would also look really lovely for this project too. So let's start off then by looking at the die cut, shall we? So I'm going to bring in my plates for this so we can get cutting, show you how they're going to work. And I'm going to work with our forest scene to begin with. So if I bring this one in, you can see that that's the die we're going to play with. Now this one actually has no edge dies to it and no base die to it. So that means it's going to stay in the cardstock wherever we choose to put it. So let's bring in a piece of black card so you can see this nice and easily. It's always tricky to know what colours are going to show up best on camera, but I always think black is certainly a stark colour you're going to see. So I'm going to bring in a piece of low-tack tape to anchor this down. Now, because it doesn't have a blade running across the bottom or the edges of it, it really is down to where I wish to place it, to what the effect I wish to achieve from it. So potentially we could go quite low down and have a fin border to this. I could bring it up into the air here and then cut round this top part to create a window with them trees on the inside. Or of course, because we've got no edges to this either, we could marry it up and carry this on down further to make a longer border. So maybe for scrapbooking or as a border around the edge of your crackers, or maybe the edge of a card. The choice is yours. Now let's send this through the machine. So I'm using a Sizzix Big Shot Plus, hence why my plates are absolutely huge and certainly good for being able to marry up and cut longer panels if that's something you wish to do. So we'll have a little look and see that that's cut for us. Brilliant, as we can see, cut perfectly. Now, as I mentioned, we're only going to cut across the top of the trees. So when we take out the die, just get this tape off. Here we go. Oh, there we go. We don't need this bit. And then from here, we can choose where we want to go with this. So as I mentioned, and I would do this with a knife, not a pair of scissors normally, and with a rule, but I could easily have done this on a larger sheet of card, and I could take that part away and create, oh, there we go, a little scene in my project. So that might be the actual card front that I wish to cut that into, might be a slightly larger panel, I might wish to frame it. There are so many options. Or of course, we can trim up to this and take these parts away to then have it as its very own border. Now the nice bit with this die set is because we can marry it up and we can keep it going as long as we wish to, if we then bring back in the same die cuts and just offset them, so our top trees are slightly sort of misplaced as such and slightly over to one side, it doesn't look too repetitive, and it means that we can multi-stack that to create really cool forest scenes. Now this die set does also have a matching scene set of stencils, and within the stencil set, I'm not going to be using these today, but it's nice that you see all the different components. In this set, you actually receive the buildings smaller than the die set and the trees smaller than the die set, and then you receive the buildings and the trees larger than the die set, so that you've got 3 different sizes to play with between the stencils and the dies. Now also with your stencils you will receive the outside frames, and on one side you will get the tree line and on the other side you will get the skyline. So again you've got those choices to sort of bring the ink in and have the tree as a solid, or bring the ink down to the trees and go more for the night sky above them, or as ever you wish to build up from. So it just gives you more options to play around with. The windows are also quite nice on these ones to go in and add texture paste through if you nest it back into your frames. So you can do your colouring first of all, create your buildings, then pop back in that panel and go through with texture paste or a different medium to pop the windows in place through your stencils. But that's a different idea. That's just showing you there's more to this collection and more to be built up if that's what you would like to work with. So we can pop this out of the way for the second, and we'll have a little look at the board to show you more of what I mean about building these up. So when we look at this actual demo board, it shows you how we can extend these into longer panels. So hopefully you can see this okay. If I bring it up, the light might help. We've gone for white on white die cuts, which is never easy to see on camera. But we've got the buildings or the skyline running along here, extended and matched up to be even longer. And then the forest equally again matched up to be longer. Here showing you how you can take the buildings, layer them on top of the trees. And of course we have our lovely Santa and his reindeers flying through on the top there. So many ways in which you're going to be able to use this element. So let's go ahead, and we've got our trees now. So let's take our trees and take our buildings and bring these two together. So I'm going to use some of my Jamie Rodgers clear drying glue. This is a new product we've just released and is perfect because it will dry clear. It also has this great 3-part nozzle on it, so it's really safe for us to take out into crops and lessons and bits like that, because we've got the cap to go straight over the top of it. Also means that when we're working with it, we don't have a fiddly sort of nozzle or cap to keep putting back together. We can just pop that on it and make sure that that doesn't then dry and get plopped in the top as glues do. Now once we've built our little scene here for this project, we don't need it quite as long as this, so we can go in and just trim it down to the width that we want it to be. Now obviously this again is going to be an option for you, because it's down to how large a square you wish to build upon to create your scene. And again, option wise, you can choose to have this bottom part thinner or wider, down to however you wish to build this creation. Now again, if you've got quite a bit of room down here, you might want to bring in them stencils and add some colour and decoration onto those bits as well. They're certainly nice to build up more on top of if you wish to. Now for the one I'm going to be using on the card, I've gone for this one with a slightly smaller base to it, and width wise, let's just give you a little measurement on that one. This is just shy of 12 centimetres to give you a rough idea, and about 4 3/4 inches in inch sizes to give you an idea of where we're heading with that. So let's bring in some panels to build our card blank up, shall we? So working on the card again, just as a rough idea, 6.5 inches, and in centimetres we were roughly 16.5. Check the card opens the right way. The amount of cards I make going the wrong way isn't even funny. And then we'll bring in some layers. So again, working with that lovely Seashell Blue cardstock and our polar white card just for our mats and layers. And I'm stepping down 1/4 inch with each of my mats, just to give you an idea on these two. So we'll place that down, make sure we're somewhere near the middle, and then we'll go on and we'll have a little look at our next level. So for our next one down, we're going to actually foam pad this one on, and this one is 13.5 centimetres and approximately 5 1/4 maybe, just slightly over that. And I'm going to use some 2mm foam tape on the reverse of this one. This again is my Jamie Rodgers Crafts foam tape. If you haven't seen that, it's actually quite a good buy because you get 5 meters per roll. Then we're going to go for another little topper panel. This is the one that we're going to add that scene onto. And this one is 1/4 under 5 inches wide by 12 centimeters approximately. And we're going to bring in this little scene, and we're going to glue this one flat because I know that I want to add down, oh, keep hold of it, that'd help. Yeah, I'm going to add some more decorations over the top of this. So I didn't want the decorations I'm adding to have to be too highly stacked. So instead we're going to add this one down, making sure it's flat against the bottom. Not worry too much if I don't go right the way to the edges, because of the next elements are going to cover that bit up. We're then going to take our lids off the foam tape on the reverse. So again, working with our 2mm foam tape on the back of these ones. We can bring that in and place that roughly in the middle. Central as we can get that there. Lovely. And then we're going to build up on top of this. So for the next stage, we're going to bring in some of our dies, and we're going to be looking at those lovely corner elements. So I'm going to bring in this board so you can see them on here actually in their die format. And I've brought in as well the straight line die from the Essential release, because this line will actually match up with the corners. So if you do wish to extend round and build up to larger squares or larger frames, it can be rectangles, squares, whatever you wish them to be, this line will help join them panels together. Now, if you've not seen the corner sets before, these are great. What we get with these is an outside edge. With this one, you're going to get this lovely postage stamp style edge. Then you receive the X die, as I refer to them. Now, this is a separate die to cut your corners out. So if you put your corners inside it and send that through your machine, they're going to come out as delicate corners. If you use just this bit on its own, you're going to get the backing plates to go under them. So it just gives you more options in how you can use and how you can layer this. And this little die will help line them up for you so that you can cut out 4 in one go. Because we know how time consuming die cutting can be. So it's lovely to be able to do it all in one go. Now, the reason I didn't attach the edges to the dies is because I also wanted you to have options with these on their own. So with this part, this not having that X die around it or an outside edge attached to it means that you can cut this directly into your cardstock and it will stay there. So you might wish to create these as little apertures on the front of your card, absolutely fine to do so, or you might wish to take these and build them up into bigger patterns. So if I bring in our sample board here, this will give you a better idea of what I mean. This is just using them together in a row, and I've low tack taped them together to make my border. This is very easy to turn into frames or very easy to turn into much larger backgrounds. It also means that we can take them and cut them directly into that postage stamp edger that we have as well. So if you'd like to use that on its own, you can do, or you can nest them in there and cut them in as a filigree backing panel. Now, when we use the filigree part with the X die, this is what we're going to receive. When we use the X die on their own, that's the bit that we're going to get. And of course, that then gives us the option to layer them together to make them two-tone corners. So a really lovely set to work with. And this is actually my 4th corner set of a similar idea. There is a butterfly one, an everyday design, a snowflake one, and a holly one so far. But I am sure more will be coming because I absolutely love them and really enjoy playing with these and creating with them. So if we then bring in our corner elements, I've gone ahead and I've glued these 2 parts together. So I've cut the back part to them using our polar white card, just using the X die on its own. And then I have used the Seashell Blue card with the X die and the filigree die to go and cut out that top part and then glued the 2 together. I'm just moving my pearl in my little case. It seems to have moved offset. Now there are a couple of little locations. Oh, another one's moved around up here. Might have to find tweezers for that one. That's a little bit more of a removal job. This kit has travelled with me a few miles and looks like they've migrated slightly off of where they needed to be. So there we go, bring that back into place. Another thing we can do with these corners, which looks quite cool, is using them as photo corners. Now I've got quite large foam tape on the back of these, but you can easily trim your foam tape down to be smaller, and then you can actually use them as little pockets or photo corners. And then another use for these as well, which comes in really handy, is using them actually to create different decorative elements. So of course we can bring them together and make little Christmas trees out of them by stacking them, adding little gems and pearls on them to turn them into like baubles on a Christmas tree. You can also use them to do different patterns and borders and backgrounds by nesting them together. Very similar to what we would be doing when we're cutting them into our card and leaving them in place. But of course this way we're actually using the die cuts instead, which is quite good because it means we can add more dimension to them as well if we wish to. So just going on now with my 4th corner, bringing this one right up into that area there and placing that down. Now with this panel, I've got an ever so small gap between them. Now I wouldn't wish to add the stripe line on or the line die onto those. So for my finished one, I've just added a slightly larger pearl to just disguise that gap. You can, of course, cut the panel slightly smaller so that your pieces overlap, but I actually really like having that little location to add in that extra pearl and that extra dimension, that extra decoration, but the choice is yours. Then we have, of course, our Father Christmas and our reindeers. So we're just going to add a little bit of glue onto the reverse of this. And I do like to put my corners on first of all when I'm doing this piece, because I like to be able to see exactly where he's going to go to make sure that I don't cover him up. I don't want poor Father Christmas to be hidden behind a corner. So we're going to bring him in and we're going to add him just coming out from there, just poking out from under that corner and flying off just slightly off into the sort of skyline there instead. And that completes our very easy, very achievable, very quick, very simple, very clean Christmas card that I think we could make in a whole host of colours and build up. You might want to bring in your glitters, you might want to bring in a quickie glue pen, you might want to bring in your inks and add some distress into it. There are so many ways you could plus this design, but it's nice for you to see it in its sort of original state as I've created it. So I hope that's inspired you to get creative with these dies. If you've got any questions, as always, don't hesitate to pop them in the comments and I'll do my very best to answer them for you. Hopefully this will inspire you to get creative with these products, and if you're looking to get hold of these products, then pop on to www.jamierodgerscrafts.com and have a look under the stockist guide to find your favourite Jamie Rodgers Crafts stockist. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.